4th and 4 here. River on the blitz, wide open. He's got his man on the side. That is Taylor. Taylor down the sideline for the touchdown.
So big, strong, physical, and yet has terrific straight-line speed.
4 minutes to play in this opening quarter. 2nd and 9. Buccaneers driving again. Brady.
Intercepted. Picked off by Michael Davis. And Davis is going to go all the way. Pick 6. Touchdown. Chargers. Davis read it perfectly and stepped in for the score.
What is it?
Carr stepping up, throwing deep, has a man out there, and the catch is made by Nelson Aguilar inside the 10-yard line. 18 yards per catch, 6 touchdowns of over 20 yards. He's been one of the best deep threats in the NFL this year.
They also get the ball back with 6 minutes to go. Make this a 2-score game pretty quickly.
Here's Naheem Hines, and Hines has found some running room. Far side of the field. 30, 20. Down the sideline. Did he step out? He did at about the 12-yard line. As Mahomes goes all the way to Hill for the touchdown.
You can't run downhill 4 steps on a guy like Tyreek Hill, because by the time you get your momentum back, Jim, he's already past you. You try and turn and run with him. He's been running. He was 10 yards away from you. Run!
93 yards in the opening half, and he pitches it to Taylor. He's got a head of steam. Taylor into Jacksonville territory and cut from behind by Miles Jack. And with that run, Jonathan Taylor has a new career high.
And there's going to be more. Kenyon Drake over 100 yards and into the end zone. Touchdown, Arizona. 69 yards. I think Drake was surprised. There they are. He's looking to his right, looking to his left. Really, nobody's going to get me on this? Garoppolo to throw. Mostert with an opening. Mostert's got great speed and nobody in front of him. Raheem Mostert is going to take it to the house, galloping in for a 76-yard touchdown. Raheem Mostert will get the toss. And some pretty good space right away. San Francisco and Raheem Mostert. Are you kidding me? 80 yards all the way on the toss play.
Raheem Mostert, Big Ten track champion. You're never going to catch him in the open field. And there's going to be more. Kenyon Drake over 100 yards and into the end zone. Touchdown, Arizona. 69 yards. I think Drake was surprised. There they are. He's looking to his right, looking to his left. Really, nobody's going to get me on this?
With a chance at the postseason one more time.
Here's Dobbins weaving his way through it. Now Dobbins a foot race. Dobbins showing the wheels, and he's in for the touchdown. Wow. A 72-yard sprint. On 2nd down, they will run it and run it. They will to Sanders. Big run. He's still on his feet. Miles Sanders. It's a foot race to the 30. Can he go all the way? The answer is yes. 82-yard touchdown.
A good stiff arm right there on Malcolm Jenkins, number 27. That was your last line of defense, and now it's a foot race to the end zone.
As Aaron Jones breaks loose. Aaron Jones, he's headed for the end zone. And he's going to be in with a Packer touchdown.
Let's get to the 35 for a first down. They keep it on the ground, and Sanders is still going in Steelers territory. The Pittsburgh native, Miles Sanders, takes it all the way with his mom and many friends and attendants here at Heinz Field. 74 yards for an Eagles score. Wow.
2nd and 7. Big running lane, and Jones takes off into the secondary, and now sprinting down the sideline. Wiggles past McLeod, and he's all the way to the end zone. Not to be denied. 77 yards.
And Jones does the rest with an incredible highlight reel run. And that was really smart to stay in bounds there.
Well, the way he's able to sidestep.
With Montgomery on 1st and 10, his running back in a hole, and then he's off with a nice stiff arm, and it's a foot race down the sideline. Jackson in pursuit, Reed in pursuit, he's gone to the house. 80-yard touchdown run. Wow! All the players we talked about David Montgomery, who has been really coming into his own over the last couple games.
Brady Mostert will get the toss. And some pretty good space right away. San Francisco and Raheem Mostert. Are you kidding me? 80 yards all the way on the toss play.
Raheem Mostert, Big Ten track champion. You're never going to catch him in the open field.
Henry breaking free. 20, 25, off to the races. They may not catch him. They won't catch him. Touchdown, Tennessee.
A back that's so big, strong, physical, and yet has terrific straight line speed.
Ronald Jones will get it. Big hole. Jones gets by. Ronald Jones may go all the way. Being chased from behind. Does Jones have enough? Still on his feet. Ronald Jones, 98-yard touchdown.
Wow. Nice job using the scoreboard as he's running down the field to see where the defenders are coming from behind him.
That is the longest touchdown run in Tampa Bay history.
Tom Brady and Drew Brees squared off in the playoffs for the first time in their Hall of Fame careers. The Buccaneers got the win, but Brady was not the deciding factor. That would be Todd Bowles' defense.
This defense has had some day here in New Orleans for Tampa Bay.
The Saints defense also did their part, holding Tom Brady to just 1 completion on 6 deep attempts for 29 yards. Since Week 14, Brady has amassed 560 yards and 8 touchdowns, the most in both categories in the NFL off deep passes. New Orleans also effectively used tight coverage, only allowing 2 receptions for 13 yards, but did allow 1 touchdown on a tight window pass.
Throws, pass, caught, Evans, touchdown.
That touchdown accounted for 6 of the 21 points the Bucs offense was able to score off their defense setting them up via turnovers.
Intercepted by the Bucs.
The Bucs defense picked Drew Brees off 3 times, twice using excellent coverage when he was not under pressure. This was the first time Brees had multiple interceptions when not under pressure since the 2017 divisional round loss to Minnesota.
Devin White, cluing in on the quarterback, is able to adjust and undercut that throw.
Tampa Bay utilized the blitz on 52.9% of dropbacks. Brees earned only 92 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 of those crucial interceptions when facing the blitz. They also effectively blanketed Michael Thomas to the tune of a low 0.8 yards of separation average on 4 targets.
Pass is broken up, and that play is made by Davis.
Sean Payton did his best to pull out all the stops, given injuries to Taysom Hill and Latavius Murray. Payton dialed up a trick play that worked to perfection, with Jameis Winston finding a wide-open Traquan Smith.
Now Traquan Smith. Smith is into the end zone for a touchdown.
It wasn't enough, though, as the Buccaneers punched their ticket to the NFC Championship, their first since 2002. Tampa has a chance to become the first team in NFL history to play the Super Bowl on their home field.
as Mahomes goes all the way to Hill for the touchdown.
Brady, home run ball on the way, and it's hauled in. Scotty Miller over the shoulder for the Buccaneers.
Mahomes down the field, yes, and he's up and in, bouncing off the ground for the touchdown. Tyreek Hill.
In this spot, if they pick up no more yardage. Brady goes for the deep shot. He's got a touchdown! Scotty Miller. Oh my God! They're down in 9. Brady slides. He's going for Godwin downfield, and a juggle and a catch. Now 3rd and 12. Brady in a 3-point game. Wants to go deep, and for Godwin, he hangs on inside the 10. Chris Godwin, 1st and goal Bucks. First snap in Vikings territory for Tampa Bay. Brady all day downfield. Touchdown, Scotty Miller. This would be huge for the Raiders to get a stop. Brady, deep shot to the end zone for Miller, and it is caught for a touchdown.
3 to snap it. Here's Mahomes, gets some pressure, man in his face. He's got Hardman wide open for the touchdown. McCole Hardman.
Mahomes has not thrown a pass to Kelsey yet, but Kelsey threw one to him. Spell incomplete, and now you want a deep ball. Here it is. To Hill for the touchdown.
Congratulations to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on winning Super Bowl 55 and to Tom Brady for his ridiculously impressive 7th Super Bowl and 5th Super Bowl MVP. Breaking his streak of no touchdowns in first quarters of Super Bowls, Brady connected with Rob Gronkowski on a play-action pass.
It's Gronkowski, the biggest tandem for touchdowns now in postseason history.
The Buccaneers made a huge commitment to play-action passes, using them on 43.3% of dropbacks, after doing so just 11.9% of the time against Kansas City in Week 12. All 3 of Brady's first half touchdowns came off play-action, which makes him the first quarterback to reach that mark in the past 5 postseasons. It was a vintage Gronk performance overall, with 5 of his 6 receptions coming on targets with 3+ yards of separation, his most such receptions in a game this season. In the first half, Brady was only pressured on 3 of 21 dropbacks. Between a low pressure rate and 85% of his passes traveling 10 or fewer air yards, Brady was strategically able to use deep targets, where he was 3 of 3 for 64 yards and his 3rd first half touchdown.
And there's the catch for the touchdown.
The game was completely different for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Without his normal starting tackles, he was under pressure on 32.7% of dropbacks.
Knocked down. That is again Pierre Paul.
Todd Bowles had a fantastic strategy against Mahomes and Kansas City's explosive offense. The Buccaneers played 2 high safeties on 87% of plays, their highest for the season, to keep the Chiefs' speedy receivers in front of them.
See the swarm come in, Jim, where it's just, he's never going to be by himself one-on-one.
They were able to do so as Tampa got that pressure against Mahomes while rushing only 4. This gave Mahomes nowhere to go with the ball, leading to his average time to throw of 3.47 seconds. Mahomes is 1-3 in his career when that number is north of 3.3.
He is taken down by Shaq Barrett.
The Buccaneers defense also took away the sidelines with their too high coverage, an area Mahomes torched them in Week 12. He threw for just 50 yards and 2 interceptions outside the numbers after throwing for more than 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in their prior meeting.
Trying to find the end zone, and no! How about that? One last indignity.
Couple this with the Chiefs hurting themselves in the first half with 8 penalties for 95 yards, including a crucial offsides on a field goal leading to a touchdown on the next play. Something tells me Mahomes will get another shot at this, but Tom Brady once again shows why he is the GOAT, winning in his first season with a new team and crowning the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as the first team in NFL history to hoist the Lombardi Trophy at home.
Hey
Hey football fans, I'm Cynthia Freeland and welcome to the 3rd annual Big Data Bowl powered by AWS. This year, we've flipped our crowdsourced competition over to the defensive side of the ball. We asked data scientists to use next-gen stats tracking data from 2018 to devise innovative ways to analyze pass coverage in the NFL. We had nearly 200 entries from around the globe. Our staff then narrowed down the competition to 8 finalist teams, 3 from the collegiate level and 5 from our open competition. Today, one of those 8 teams will be crowned Big Data Bowl champion and the winner of $10,000. In just a bit, you'll meet each team of finalists, see their presentation, and watch them participate in a Q&A session with our panel of judges. At the conclusion of the show, this year's winner will be announced. This year's Big Data Bowl features a conversation with Ravens head coach John Harbaugh. We'll sit down with the Super Bowl winning coach to discuss the role analytics play in today's game. But before we go forward, let's take a quick look back at the history of the Big Data Bowl.
See those dots? Those are the real-time locations of every player on the field.
Out in front, can Metcalf track him down?
Tracked using RFID chips embedded into every player's shoulder pads, as well as on officials, pylons, sticks, chains, and even in the ball. The tracking system captures player data such as location, speed, distance traveled, and acceleration at a rate of 10 times per second.
Oh my gosh!
Running entirely on Amazon Web Services, all this tracking data helps generate the NFL's next-gen stats and can tell us things like how far a receiver is from a DB when they catch a pass, or how fast a returner is when they take a kickoff back for a touchdown. But what else can we learn from the nearly 200 new data points generated on every single play? That's where the Big Data Bowl comes in.
Our job is to try and figure out what is best for the league, and we thought that sharing player tracking data would be a good way to get data scientists on board with football data, and also to figure out what are some of these untapped ideas that we don't know. Like, what are the questions we can answer that we've never been able to answer before in football?
Here's how it works. Each year, interested applicants are provided with a large pool of tracking data and tasked with broadening the understanding surrounding a particular football situation. From things like identifying optimal receiver route combinations, like first ever winner Nate Sterkin in 2019, to determining expected rushing yards from the moment a running back receives a handoff, like 2020 winners Philip Singer and Dmitry Gordev. Submissions are then judged by NFL team analytics staff before finalists are selected to present their findings at the annual NFL Scouting Combine, or in a special edition for 2021, virtually.
Our team analytics staffers do all the judging. So when we receive submissions for this year's event, I forward them along to our teams. They go through and they rank them on several different categories. And so ultimately, this is what our teams think are the best submissions for this year's Big Data Bowl in terms of like what's going to most help them win football games.
While finalists compete for a cash prize, the competition can also serve as a pipeline to a career in the NFL as teams continue to expand their ability to analyze advanced metrics. But perhaps the biggest goal of the Big Data Bowl, helping the greater NFL analytics community find new and better ways to look at how the game is played.
Let's just see what people can do with football data. Usually when you're trying to answer a question, you're probably the first person in the history of the world to ever answer that exact question with this exact data. You could help your offense make better decisions with play calling. You could help your offense figure out like what is the best lineman to draft in the 6th round. You could help your defensive coach figure out how to train your players to better react to certain types of passing schemes. It's going to help our teams. It's going to give them good ideas both for how they can use football data. And I think our teams are recognizing that. And the more resources they're able to devote, the more questions they're going to eventually be able to answer.
So I'm playing double duty today as both the host and a judge of the Big Data Bowl. But it's time for you to meet the rest of the judges, the ones who actually matter here. 3 of these folks participated in the inaugural Big Data Bowl back in the 2018-2019 season, and they actually know what's going on. One was a winner. That's where we're going to start. I'd like to introduce Nate Sterkin, who's the lead data scientist for the Cleveland Browns, and of course, our winner of the inaugural Big Data Bowl. How are you, Nate?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for the introduction. I really enjoyed being part of the Big Data Bowl a couple years ago as a participant. Now it's a great opportunity to be able to join again as a judge. So looking forward to meeting everyone.
Okay, from one team with a quarterback and some great things going on in the offseason to another team with a quarterback that just got a lot of money, very paid, very interesting one. Adam Vonderhaar from the Dallas Cowboys. He's a football research analyst, and he was one of the finalists from our inaugural competition as well. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Excited to be here and excited to be a part of the Big Data Bowl again. It was obviously very important for me, and kind of led to my opportunity with the Cowboys. So excited to be involved and looking forward to meeting the finalists.
Awesome. And Dr. Catherine Evans, who's joining us now in the NBA, but she also participated in that inaugural Big Data Bowl. She's a director of strategic research for the Toronto Raptors. How are you today, Catherine? Thanks for being here.
I'm great. Thank you so much for the invitation. I had a great time participating in the Big Data Bowl, and it's great to continue to be involved as it evolves and grows and as we see amazing submissions. So I'm really looking forward to talking to the participants.
Awesome. And last but not least, we have a really special guest who comes to us from Amazon. We have Colby Wise, who's a senior deep learning scientist for Amazon Web Services. The interesting part about this job description is awesome and every part of it's important. So he's the manager and deep learning scientist at Amazon Machine Learning Solutions Lab. He leads a global team that helps AWS customers accelerate their machine learning and cloud adoption across industries, from sports to finance to healthcare. Colby co-leads the Amazon Machine Learning Solution Lab sports business, where he works with us here at the NFL, Formula One, the NHL, and sports across the entire globe. Colby, we need to know more about your job. Thank you for being here. How's it going?
Going well, joining from New York. Super excited to be here, and I know the tremendous amount of work that goes into these projects. We do similar work every day with global sports leagues and stadiums and customers like the NFL, and so I'm really excited to kind of see the results that teams are able to get and ask some tough questions.
Now that you've gotten to know our judges, it's time to meet the finalists and see what they've created. Each team will first present a condensed version of their ideas and findings. You can find their entire presentation on NFL.com/BigDataBowl. After the presentation, the finalists will each have a Q&A session with our judges. Once all 8 teams have gone, the winner for this year's Big Data Bowl will be announced. Our first group of data scientists is made up of one hardcore Cleveland sports fan and one diehard Colts fan. The duo met while working at 8451, a subsidiary of Kroger Foods that uses data and analysis to help its customers. Here are Matthew and James.
My name is James Venzer. I grew up in Cleveland, a huge sports fan. They're very easy to get into football with the Browns, and I'm kind of known by all my friends as a Cleveland sports fanatic. Recently accepted a position to work as a data scientist for the Cleveland Indians.
My name's Matthew Gartenhouse. I'm 24. I live in Cincinnati currently, but I'm from Indianapolis, so big Colts fan all of my life.
Me and Matthew are roommates, so knew that there's something that we were both interested in, and we worked very well together, and it was just a great experience to be able to work on a team in something like this.
I think my favorite stat is one of the next gen stats, longest tackle. To me, I think that stat has a lot of kind of value beyond just like on that play, really just kind of defining a team's mentality, encouraging hustle, like those guys who are running 20, 30 yards down the field. They make a huge difference. Those sorts of plays have a lot bigger impact on the entire team. So I just think that's a really great stat.
It means so much to have been named a finalist. I mean, going through, and the thing I love the most about the competition is it's just open source, so you can see what everybody did, and reading all the submissions, people did such great work, and it was really humbling as really just an aspiring sports data scientist to see, our work held in high esteem.
Just a very, very special to be able to work on a project that is so open source and does just promote learning within the data science community.
We quantified defender performance by pass coverage attribute. How we wanted to quantify these attributes was from a points perspective, because that's the currency of the game. And so we were able to quantify how many points a defender saved or costed his team based on these attributes. We created and predicted EPA values throughout the course of a play in real time. And what we found was that ball skills was the most important attribute, closely followed by tracking ability, which together made up over 60% of the EPA shifts. So the ball skills attribute looks at how a defender performs between the time of the pass arrival and the pass outcome. Now, looking at all defenders over the entirety of the season, when they were challenged with a pass attempt and then got to this point with ball skills, Xavier Howard ended up being the #1 defender in man coverage, saving a little over 3 touchdowns worth of points, and Eddie Jackson was the top zone guy, saving a little over 2.
We believe these metrics will provide granular and global player evaluations for front offices and aid coaches in developing targeted coaching and game planning on an individual player basis.
Welcome in now, Matthew and James. Thank you so much for your presentation. Let's start with Colby. What stood out from this presentation, and what do you have a question on?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting that you guys kind of arrived at deep learning. Very different approach than most teams. So I'm actually curious, from a data analysis or data exploration standpoint, why did you guys feel that deep learning was the best solution here as opposed to like traditional ML?
Yeah, great question. We chose to go with deep learning for a couple of reasons. So the first one was we thought it enabled us to use more rich data from the player tracking data in terms of accounting for everybody's position on the field as well as velocity without having to get into a bunch of feature engineering. And secondly, we felt kind of the last Big Data Bowl gave a really good roadmap of how to apply that type of a process to a running play. And so applying it to a passing play by predicting the pass outcome, and then the yards conditioned on if it was caught or intercepted, seemed like a natural approach to dealing with creating real-time EPA predictions.
Well, one part of your submission I wanted to ask you about is on the tracking portion, and specifically it's limited to man coverage. And I guess the question is, have you thought about ways to expand it or apply it on zone coverage?
For us, it was in the time that we had. We did kind of provide the framework as far as when we were tagging different coverages to be man or zone. We assigned a defender to a receiver when they were in zone coverage if they were the closest to the receiver of any defender and the receiver was the closest to them of any offensive player. So you could extend that framework to have sort of zone assignment.
Is there one thing that, as you were looking at this data, that inspired you from kind of an external source? Your paper's amazing. It's a ton of work. I love the dashboard. I just want to know if there's one thing like that you took from the outside that maybe we can learn from here that really inspired like this work and your structure for it.
It's one thing to like build these very complicated, very cool machine learning models, but it's also being able to translate that into something that's easily consumable for someone who's maybe not necessarily as familiar with the data. That was a big priority, kind of turning data into action.
Thank you so much for your thoughtfulness, your hard work, and for being here today and for answering all of our questions. Good luck.
Thank you.
The next team of finalists is a group of students from the University of Pennsylvania. They say their model has found a way to find hidden value at the cornerback position before the league catches up. Please welcome Zach, Ryan, Sarah, and Zach.
I'm Zach Drapkin. I'm 20 years old. I'm a junior in Wharton undergrad studying statistics and decision processes, and I'm looking forward to pursuing a career in football analytics.
I'm Sarah Hu. I'm 19 years old, and I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm at Wharton studying finance and statistics.
Hi, I'm Ryan Gross. I'm 23 years old, and I graduated in 2019 from Rutgers University, and now I'm at Wharton studying a PhD in statistics.
My name's Zach Bradlow. I'm 20 years old. I currently study finance and business analytics at the Wharton School with minors in data science and computer science, and I'm from Ardmore, Pennsylvania.
I've always been interested in sports my entire life, and so I've just enjoyed learning more about like the analytical and the quantitative side because there's just no bias in that. My end goal at the end of the day is to become the GM of an NFL team, and so I know analytics is one avenue of making it.
And for me, I always was pretty quantitative in my thinking and wanted to be able to apply numbers into sports. And I think the Big Data Bowl provides a really unique opportunity to work with some of that proprietary data from the NFL and actually get to apply some real insights and find things that could be useful for NFL teams.
Yeah, I just want to speak to the level of community and collaboration, not just between this group, but between all of the Data Bowl participants and really all of the sports analytics community. I think this was just a great experience to bring together ideas from people all over the world.
Winning the Big Data Bowl this year would be huge validation that I have the skills and abilities, and the rest of the team does as well, to make a difference in football analytics and really contribute something new to the field.
I would also be very okay with not winning this, because I know the other 2 college finalists were also females. And so I really would hope for the best for them as well. Welcome. Our 2021 NFL Big Data Bowl submission is called Check the Tape, He's Wide Open, a target-agnostic evaluation method for cornerbacks and wide receivers.
Now, starting with the coverage classification, we used an XGBoost model. So using those coverage classifications, we isolated man-to-man routes to compare receivers and corners head-to-head. We were able to predict with 70% accuracy whether a receiver would beat his defender on a given play.
We plugged our estimates of every head-to-head matchup from the 2018 season into an EVO model. The final tape ranking of cornerbacks from our model shows All-Pro cornerback Stephon Gilmore as the top cornerback from the 2018 season. Additionally,
these ratings can be applied by NFL teams in a number of different settings. When it comes to finding and evaluating talent at the cornerback position, our tape metric correlates well with salary and can therefore be used to find undervalued players. Clearly, this shows that teams could implement the tape system to find bargains at cornerback before the rest of the league catches on. Thank you to Michael Lopez and the NFL for this opportunity, and thank you all for listening to our presentation.
All right, so we have from the University of Pennsylvania, we have Zach, Ryan, and Sarah joining us. Let's get started with Nate. Nate, what are your questions for them?
Yeah, well, first, great paper. Thanks for writing it. A question I had for you was on your model that is predicting route success. It seems like what you did is you collapsed the route down into a single row as opposed to kind of going at a frame by frame method. Can you speak to that decision?
Sure. I think one of the difficulties of this project and this task as a whole was just working with the high dimensional data, and there was so much of it. So additionally, because we're looking at a route to route level and trying to calculate for each route who won, who lost, and assigning a probability to that, it seemed to make sense that we only wanted the aggregate of the entire play. I think in future iterations of this, we would look frame by frame, because we might be able to improve our accuracy by doing that and looking more at the individual changes at different points throughout the play. But ultimately, in order to go end to end with our methodology, it made sense, at least on first pass, to just go with one row and some summary features for each route.
One question I had, if I understand it correctly, you kind of implemented the Bradley Terry model, and then you also implemented the ELO model. What was the thought process behind that? Is one better than the other? What's the point of combining them versus using one or using the other?
I think the decision to do that was basically because the 2 different systems highlighted different attributes of each player, or ranked them slightly differently. And so we thought we could get our best predictive power from taking an aggregate.
Ryan, can you give me some undervalued players that maybe we didn't notice in 2018 that we should have potentially had more awareness of, now that we can see from the 2021 point of view?
Totally. So one of our top cornerbacks was Captain Munnerlin. We also have players like Nickel Roby-Coleman, and these were players that might not be at the top of some of these lists when you're looking at strictly plays that are targeted, but definitely did their job and kind of shut these players down and forced them not to get targets.
Very interesting stuff. Thank you so much. Great presentation. We really appreciate your time, your effort, your energy, subjecting yourself to our group of judges, and really good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's lock our jaws. Let's buckle up. If it's moving, hit it. Active throw, fires on the out. Well, it's picked off by Xavier Howard. A pick 6 for Miami. It is picked off. It is intercepted. Going back the other way. It is Tre'Davious White. Throws over the middle, intercepted. It is Minka Fitzpatrick.
And it's intercepted. Picked off by Stephon Gilmore.
Our next team of finalists actually DM'd legendary coach Wade Phillips to see if he'd be willing to sit down and talk defensive strategies. And he agreed to do it. The group then named their model after Coach Phillips, calling it WADE, Weighted Assessment of Defender Effectiveness. Meet Osmo, Marshall, Sydney, and Tony.
Hi, I'm Marshall Furman. I'm 26 years old and I live in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Hi, I'm Sydney Robinson. I live in Houston, Texas, and I work in sports and entertainment insurance.
Hey, I'm Tony Alhaver. I'm 27. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm an electrical engineer.
My name is Asma Toomey. I live in Boston, and by day, I am the director of analytics for a healthcare company. And by night, I am the editor-in-chief of Hockey Graphs.
I like analytics just because it's even if you're not super athletic yourself, but really love sports and you really love data, and you have a way to really engage in sports through it.
It adds another dimension to my fandom and my level of engagement with sports.
First, I just want to say I think this competition is a great thing for sports analytics. It promotes sharing data openly, advancing knowledge, providing students and professionals a platform to share their work and become known in the sports analytics community. So it's an incredible honor to be included, as a finalist in this year's Big Data Bowl.
I feel like I represent people that come from atypical backgrounds. Like, not only I'm an engineer in the day job, but I just want to, if the data is out there and you have passion, you have interest, and you really want to do something, you can do it.
Data science and really any job is a team sport. So I've learned a lot through that, and what it would mean for us to be the grand winner is not only a testament to the power of teamwork, but also to inspire people just like us who are self-taught, who had untraditional backgrounds. And so we hope to, with our win, we hope to inspire those people.
Our Big Data Bowl story starts with championship coach Wade Phillips. He believed first and foremost that it's all about the personnel.
The first part of our presentation will focus on the defender effectiveness portion of Wade. It consists of two main defensive qualities, coverage skill and contest skill. We evaluated coverage skill through what we call target probability. If a receiver has more space between them and a defender, a QB is more likely to throw it their way. He does not start as a most likely target option. However, after he beats number 20 Buchanan, you can see he becomes more likely to be targeted.
To tie everything together, we evaluate pass defender impact. You can see that the nearest defender, number 20, receives the majority, 74% of the credit, but everyone receives some portion of credit.
Wade allows teams to identify talent and understand that defense is a system of parts. The reality is very few players are good at everything. By understanding your secondary strengths and weaknesses, you can construct a roster with complementary skill sets. We really appreciate everyone taking the time out of their day to listen to our presentation today, and best of luck to all the other competitors.
We are now joined by Asma, Marshall, Sydney, and Tony. Thank you so much for being here. Here's my question for you, Asma. You were the one who contacted Wade Phillips directly. And this one is really interesting to me because I want to know just really quickly one thing that you learned or factored into the model from that conversation. I know you go more deeply into it, but just one thing that stands out is like, oh, I really learned that, and we were able to model that out.
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's a really interesting one because going into our meeting with Wade Phillips, we had a couple ideas of what we would have wanted to do for this Kaggle competition, but we didn't quite know what that was. And we thought it was really valuable to meet with a coach to sort of give him the ideas that we were thinking and just seeing how he received them. As analysts, there's a lot of cool and sophisticated things you can do, but at the end of the day, if the coach is not able to understand them or see the value in that, then that's kind of a disservice. We definitely asked, what do you think makes a successful defense? And we got inspired by that, and I think that's how we came up with those two defensive skills that we ended up modeling.
Well, I think it's just so great to start with the end user in mind. It's so easy as a data scientist, not that I've ever done this, but to fall down this rabbit hole of building some overcomplicated model, and then you end up with something that no one actually wants. So kudos to you guys for doing that. One thing I wanted to get you talking about a little bit more is your weighting approach, which was really cool. Did you try including any other pieces of information in that scheme besides distance?
We also looked at a few different time-based weighting ideas. How long is this person the closest defender? How long are they within 5 yards of the receiver? We found that there just wasn't enough consistency across different plays, different defensive schemes. You're not trying to close in on the receiver until a certain point. And so we went with the distance because we just found it was more consistent.
We did consider a matchup model, which we've seen in basketball before. We ran out of time to do that.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being a part of it. Good luck.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Our next finalist is one of our college entries. Jill Reiner is 21 years old and currently an undergrad at Denison University in Ohio. When it came to preparing for the Big Data Bowl, Jill says she treated her preparation and analysis like it was another class.
Hi, my name is Jill Reiner. I'm 21 and I'm from Westchester, New York. I'm currently a junior at Denison University, majoring in data analytics. I definitely see sports analytics in my future. Hockey is the sport I really fell in love with at a young age and have kept up with the most of as I've grown up. I'd say football's a close second in terms of sports, but I definitely see myself working in any sport in the future. I find player projection as a whole really fascinating, whether that be for pro players or prospects. But I think what's really interesting about it is that there's not one clear-cut formula, and it's a lot of the times pretty random. So if you asked 5 people what the most important indicator of predicting future success in any sport, there's not really going to be a single answer. Yeah, I was in class actually when he tweeted it out, so definitely a shock. I mean, I was checking Twitter during my class. I mean, don't tell my professor, but yeah, pretty shocking. Just being a finalist, being in the same conversation as some big names in sports analytics that have won previously, and also the talented people presenting beside me is really cool. I mean, I've been blown away from all of the positive reaction, and winning it all would really be the cherry on top. And I think it would just be a testament to my growth and really show how far I've come. How can we better evaluate members of the secondary? My analysis was framed upon 2 models. The first, a target probability model, and a completion probability model. And using these models, I came up with 3 separate stats, which I then used to cluster defender types. So as an example, at snap, Cooks has a 22.4% chance of being targeted, and then at pass forward, he has a 16.2% chance of being targeted. Moving to completion probability, this can be used to evaluate a defender in stages 2 and 3 of the pass, so from ball release to ball arrival, and then ball arrival to pass outcome. Once we have these 3 stats, I clustered then defined specific player types. What's most notable is that cluster 2 is really where you want to be as a defender. They're good throughout all phases of a play, taking away targets, breaking up passes, and closing in on their receiver. You can look at these stats in man and zone, and also performance by route type or game situation. So thank you.
Okay, we are joined now by Jill. Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you so much for being here. All right, Dr. Catherine, what have you got for her?
I just wanted to say I really enjoyed reading your project. I think you laid out your aims and your methods really, really clearly. So thank you for that. It's always good to read something that's very well communicated. Why did you choose 3 clusters, and what were sort of the sample sizes in each of them?
Yeah, the clustering part is tough. And so I chose to cluster just basically because, I wanted to see if there were any relationships between the variables themselves. And then I kind of eyeballed it a little bit, and that 4 or 5 clusters, there weren't really a lot of players.
Yeah, I really enjoyed reading your paper, and I thought it was great how you were able to, break down skill into different components. But I guess my question is, ultimately for a team, when you're thinking about signing a player, you have to come to a dollar amount, and so you need to get an overall estimate of their value. So I guess, did you think at all about how to combine your different subscores into a overall, value?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, player evaluation is a tough problem to begin with. Really putting all of these things into one singular value or number or dollar amount is even harder. So yeah, I definitely thought about that, and that's another step I could take, or someone else could build off of it. I'd be happy to see someone else take a stab and kind of improve what I have.
Well, in our quest to become a millionaire, I think maybe this $10,000 prize could be one step closer. So good luck with the rest of this competition. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate all of your hard work. Good luck. And I mean, look, this is great. I wish I would have been doing things like this in undergrad. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're halfway through the competition, but before you meet the rest of our competitors, we have something really special for you. Since the Big Data Bowl's inception, a total of 15 participants have been hired by NFL clubs or affiliate vendors. One team who's at the forefront when it comes to analytics is the Baltimore Ravens. So we sat down with Coach John Harbaugh to talk about the future of data in the NFL.
Jackson takes the snap, runs to the right. He's got a seam. He's to the 5. He's in. Touchdown, Lamar Jackson. And the Ravens have taken the lead again. Great decision
Great execution.
You're putting it all on the line. You're saying if we're going to beat a good team in their house, we got to be aggressive. We need touchdowns, not field goals. I love the call.
Please help me first welcome Michael Lopez, the NFL's Director of Football and Data Analytics and the Big Data Bowl's creator. And without further ado, the man in between us, you know him. He's Super Bowl winning, NFL Coach of the Year winning, the living embodiment of analytics best practices. John Harbaugh, thank you so much for being with us here today. How is your offseason starting off?
It's going great. I feel a lot better about myself now after that great introduction with you guys. So thanks for the hype job.
Coach, thanks for joining us and being a part of the Big Data Bowl. How does the Ravens as an organization value data, and how does that help you prepare for games and things like that?
I mean, we value it greatly. You know, it's information is everything. You know, it's information is king, I guess you might say. The opportunities that we have now to just get so much more information, you know, through the technology, the different programs, the different areas, different places. That's what you try to make sure that you try to take advantage of and try to, you know, organize it and analyze it and try to make sense of it as best as you can.
The Ravens really do lead the way, and it's really interesting to see how it all pieces together. What really got you into it?
We brought a guy in here from Stanford, Matt Weiss, who just went to, you know, join my brother's staff at Michigan, and it's kind of the way his mind worked, you know, and so we started talking about just what ways to gain more information, analyze more information, and that was 12 years ago. So that was kind of where we started taking baby steps, and we've always broken games down. We've always, you know, try to gather information and try to start putting it into programs. You know, first you've got the beans. You know, maybe it used to be with cards and pins. I can remember him, you know, in the 70s being in our basement, you know, breaking down tape, putting information on cards, and then they would organize it by putting pins through the tops of these holes in the cards. And it was just a way to organize information, right? And then you had calculators, eventually computers, and now all the different information. I mean, we've got tracking devices and everything else. I'm sure there'll be more coming forward. And now we're just trying to, it's like an avalanche of information. We're just trying to organize it.
You mentioned your brother in Michigan. And I have to ask, growing up, I assume the two of you were fairly competitive. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, that's safe to say, yeah.
How is your brother comfortable with you being the more aggressive coach on fourth down, season in and season out?
I don't know. Is that true? I don't even know. He still figures he can beat me up, so he's got the edge, I guguess.
Where do you see yourself and the NFL changing its day-to-day use of data? You talked about, you know, you're always chasing it. So where do you think it's going to go? Like, where are we headed?
I don't know. It's a great question. I mean, it's just a matter of analyzing it. You know, that's the biggest thing is doing it quickly enough. Information starts coming to you on Friday or Saturday. What are we going to do with that? We practiced already Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with our team. We've made the game plan. Yeah, there might be a tweak here or there or something, but hopefully, you know, when you get information late, it becomes a confirmer. But when you really can use it is when you get the information on Monday or Tuesday morning at the latest in the NFL, where you can actually apply it to your film studies. So what you really want to be able to do is get information. These are things that are proven over the course of not just a four-game breakdown, but maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe even multiple years with a coordinator. You can say this really holds up, and then you watch it and you see it on tape, and you tell your guys for sure, hey, if it's this split, or if it's this formation, or if it's this motion, or if it's this player in that spot moving this way, you can pretty much count on seeing something, you know, maybe 80% of the time. And that really is helpful. But you got to get that early because you got to practice those things all week with your team. You know, it's still an execution sport. So I would say the biggest thing is the ability to organize the information, gather the information, sift it, and analyze it in time to put it to use in practice when you start preparing your team. That's what we're trying to do. So, but you've got to have people, they've got to be analytically inclined. They got to understand how to work out formulas and find information. And then you've got to be able to apply it to football. You've got to have a feel for the game and say, okay, this really is something that's useful to us and it can be applied to the game plan. We're looking for those people all the time.
Is there an example you have, Coach, of a time that your data group or your staff or organization sifted through that information, gave you something on Monday morning, and you were like, holy cow, you know, this is something that we hadn't thought of?
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's really one that stands out. We're always getting information on, you know, what this quarterback succeeds against, what types of coverages he's good against, what types of pressures he's not good against or good against. Situationally, those things are more like long-term kind of things, and we study those things all the time throughout the off season. So I don't know. I'd probably have to kill you if I told you, but I really can't remember anyway. So
I think that's coach speak for we have a really great staff, so we don't just get one, we get one every single week. So I can't even remember it because we have so many great ones. If you had any advice for anyone who's watching this Big Data Bowl, all of these people participating with the data, how can you best apply it to getting a job with the team? What's most useful looking forward, especially in this weird off season with different parameters for measuring?
Well, I'll tell you two things probably. The first thing is, is send teams your work, the stuff that you've done, send it to head coaches and general managers in the National Football League and head coaches in college, and show them what you've done, and teach, show them something they haven't seen before, teach them something that they didn't know before, and especially about their own team or about their opponents. I mean, that would be really a great way to get your foot in the door, I think. And the other thing, and this is something I would just say, because I've got some really smart people here, as you said, and just good young people and smart people, and they do just a fabulous job. And we'll get into these conversations sometimes because there's a little bit of a divide there between old school coaching and analytics. And to me, it's like really important to bridge that gap and understand that we're doing the same job. We're in this together. Sometimes there's doubt on both sides. I would encourage the data side, as you kind of work your way into coaching, is to just have some respect and some empathy for all the coaching experience that has gone on for the last 120 years. I mean, just because it's true 70% of the time doesn't mean it's going to be true this time. And this time is the time that matters because that game is on the line. We want to win this game in this moment. Sometimes it is the right decision to go against the numbers in a certain situation. It has to do with a lot of things. It has to do with the way the wind's blowing and the ball's bouncing. It might have to do with the psychology of your team, things like that. Same thing with coaches on the other side. The data, what's data? It's repetitions. It's things that have happened in games to teams, to coaches, to players. That is football, and it's true. So, you should respect that side of it. And I think we've kind of really bridged that here really well. That's the biggest thing. Just remember it's teamwork and, try to do the best you can to give your players the best chance to go out there and be successful.
Just when we thought you couldn't be any better, you at least were 70% better than we thought.
Okay. I want to see the data on that. Was there a graph for that? It's an honor to be with you guys. And, I do think it's, just a great way to kind of broaden the perspective of the sport and to get more people involved in it in a fun way. And there's so many perspectives and ways to look at anything, especially football, because it's such a complicated, complex, crazy kind of game, and, you guys are doing a great job of that. So we appreciate it. I know all my people here love you guys and appreciate what you're doing. So keep up the great work, and we'll be following what you guys come up with and what you have to say in the future.
Thank you so much for your time, for your energy. We learned a ton. I'm going to have to watch this about 7 more times to even take down all the notes from it. Thank you so much. We look forward to watching you, what you do in free agency, what you do in the draft, and of course, the unfolding of next season. Good luck, Coach.
Thanks a lot. Great being with you guys. Appreciate you.
All right, getting back to this year's competition, our next team of data scientists started working on their model as a way to stay in touch with some college friends. Here are Wei, Mark, Sam, and Jack.
Yeah, my name is Sam Walzak. I'm 28 years old, and I live in St. Louis Park, Minnesota.
My name is Mark Richards. I'm 27 years old now.
My name is Jack Werner. I'm 26 years old. I work as a data scientist for Wells Fargo.
My name is Wei Pan. I'm 27 years old. I'm living in Pittsburgh. I grew up in China and came to the United States in 2015 for my PhD studies.
Sam, Jack, and I have worked on a number of sports analytic public projects over the years. Now I'm a stats PhD student at the University of Pittsburgh with Wei. We all enjoy sports, and we really haven't had the opportunity to work with the player tracking data. And so this was just a great opportunity, being the first people in the world to deal with this player tracking data.
Michael Lopez was tweeting some of these plots of where Pat Mahomes and where Tom Brady threw the football from. And I thought that was just fascinating, how something that in one level is kind of simple can really tell a story about how different players play the game.
We're here to present our framework for evaluating defensive player coverage.
So first, we identify whether a defender is in man or zone coverage. We apply a suite of model-based metrics.
Based on the movement of the offensive players, we model how he transitions from defending one player to another.
Now that we've identified who a defender is responsible for at each frame of a play, we implemented an in-play modeling framework. We can create metrics based on the output and significant inputs of the models.
Now that we have all these metrics, we can slice and dice them a million different ways depending on what question we're looking to answer. If we wanted to know who's the best defender in man coverage, we could average rank across all of our metrics, and then we'd see Stephon Gilmore of the Patriots coming out on top. Then we could do the same for zone coverage, where we'd find Marlon Humphrey at the top. These are just a few examples of how our analysis could be used. We hope that our framework provides a solid foundation for the football analytics community to build on moving forward.
All right, we are now joined by Mark, Wei, Sam, and Jack. Let's kick this off by asking Colby to start with a question.
I love that you actually looked at zone coverage and not just man-to-man. Can you walk us through like some of the challenges you face when from that side of the perspective when looking at zone?
First of all, identifying when zone coverage was happening as opposed to man was a big part of our project. And then additionally, building off of that, when we're saying that the player is in zone, trying to identify what are you doing in that zone coverage and how does that change throughout the course of the play. Those would be kind of the questions that we were trying to answer specifically for zone coverage for our project.
Dr. Catherine, what have you got for him?
So first I want to say I really enjoyed your guys' project. I think you had one of the most interesting visuals of with the quarterback orientation and how, the sort of probability of being targeted lights up as the quarterback sort of turns and looks at different receivers. I think that's just great. I want to see an animated version of that. My question would be sort of generally speaking, how do you handle the sort of lack of a sample size and how do you sort of quantify the uncertainty that surrounds that?
One of the things we thought about with only certain defenders being targeted a certain amount of time is why we wanted to look at before the pass as opposed to just after the pass.
I think the framework that we have in a way is great for the fact that only one player gets targeted on a play and there's all these defenders who don't get targeted. And Mark mentioned like expected completion percentage or something before the pass is thrown. We can still apply those to players who aren't targeted. It still provides a way to evaluate those players more so than traditional ways.
Thank you guys so much for your time, your energy, your effort, and joining us here today. We really appreciate it. Best of luck to you. When our next finalist told his college counselor that he wanted to change his major from exercise science to statistics, she thought he was a little crazy. But since he's a finalist at this year's Big Data Bowl, I think it's safe to say it worked out. Meet Joe Andruzzi.
My name is Joe Andruzzi. I'm 24 years old, from Bradenton, Florida. I've always just had this weird obsession, like I guess love for the game, you call it. Like in 5th grade, I remember we had laptops and all the kids are playing little games on their laptops, and I'm like following the Patriots trade transactions with Wes Welker and Randy Moss and like scouting out their draft picks. So I just always had like this weird obsession, not just with the game of football, but even like it's kind of like the technical aspect of it. I went to actually 3 colleges before I settled down at Florida State University, and not a lot of people know that. It wasn't until I got to Florida State it really clicked. Like I was an exercise science major starting my junior year, and I just completely flipped the switch to statistics. Like everything I've learned through statistics, I applied it with football, and that's how I learned. Maybe I inspire someone because I know what it's like to just like, you're not really sure, like no one knows what they want to do. And sometimes it just clicks later on in life. And that's what it did for me. So maybe I inspire someone. My project is defender evaluation on one-cut routes and double moves. So to the left, you'll see Alan Hearns running a double move called a sluggo route, where he essentially makes one cut in and then he makes a second cut heading straight up field. So the goal of my submission was to evaluate cornerbacks on their ability to cover one-cut routes as well as double moves like this one here. So here you can see Stephon Diggs in the white jersey working Ronald Darby on this 10-yard out route. So if you look on the pictures on the right, this kind of gives you a glimpse of some of the features that are in the model. So first you have the orientation difference relative to the receiver. Next we have the sideline velocity. Next we have separation. So these are only a few of the many features that actually go into the model. So to the left, you'll see the rankings for the one-cut routes. If you look to the right, you can see the rankings on double moves. When I initially plotted the rankings for both route types, I actually expected to see the chart on the left. So I used a method called clustering, and I was able to identify some of these tendencies in cornerbacks. Teams should be actively trying to target these defenders. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Joe. Okay, judges, let's give him some questions.
Let's say you're pitching this idea and this findings to the Dallas Cowboys. How could something like this be used to evaluate players, or even for coaches to come up with like better strategies?
Yeah, so I gave the team an evaluation model on their ability to cover basically the entire route tree. So you can actually see which corners kind of play more aggressive. And then going into the game plan that week, you can kind of maybe try a double move on one of these aggressive cornerbacks and try to beat them deep.
How did you differentiate between the single and the double move?
For double moves, if the route was classified as a go and I saw multiple cuts in there, then I classified it as a double move.
Intent. I think that's always a hard problem with the tracking data. And so you think it's possible that, DBs were intentionally maybe yielding a shorter separation on a shorter route to prevent a longer play?
So that's the thing, that the unknown is the scheme. What if they were told to do that by the defensive coordinator, or that was in the play call? There's no way to know that. So you just kind of have to go with what you have.
Were there any people that jumped out to you as being kind of underappreciated, or someone that we should be paying more attention to going forward?
Eli Apple was one that, he had the best one-cut rank, and he's not really known as being like a true shutdown corner. Also, Cody Sensabaugh, that one really shocked me. He was actually had a very good one-cut grade and a very good double move, and he was actually one of the best all-around defenders.
Thank you so much for all of your hard work and for subjecting yourself to our really tough grilling here. Good luck. We'll see what happens.
Thank you.
I want to play defense right now. I want to whack.
Like I said, we're going to keep it going. Defense win championships, baby.
And throws a pass far sideline. Leaping interception across the way. Jalen Ramsey got that ball.
Now he throws over the middle off the hands of Evans. Intercepted. Jair Alexander. The Saints have picked it off. Coming back to the 35. Get down, Lattimore.
Right, lobs it right side. Intercepted. That's Buda Baker. Down the near sideline, and he may go.
Our next contestant says she currently lives in a house with 10 other people. She has previous experience working for the UVA football team in an analytics capstone. Please welcome, from the University of Virginia, Ella.
I'm Ella Summer. I'm 21 and I'm originally from Chicago. Previously, I worked both with the UVA football team in an analytics capstone, and then I also worked for the Diamondbacks one of my years as a baseball operations analyst intern. And I grew up a huge sports fan. My dad kind of made me watch football from the minute I was born. Once I got to high school, ended up taking AP Stat and realized I'm like, okay, well, I really like stat. Maybe there's something I can do with stat and sport. So I read Moneyball just to see like, okay, maybe this is the career path I'll go down. I thought it was super interesting. And when I got to school, I immediately started my major, which is stat and econ. I loved it. And like most of my projects in those classes, I would always kind of use sports or sports analytics. I think my favorite, at least sports analytics concept, is like finding that hidden gem player. Looked at high school data and I thought that was super interesting because it's really useful for colleges who don't necessarily have that great reputation, and you can find those 2-3 star recruits that end up really, really outperforming their projection. Winning the Big Data Bowl would mean a lot to me, but already just being a finalist means like absolutely the world. My previous research that I've done has really been with other people. And even when I worked for the Diamondbacks, like none of it is public. So putting a paper out there publicly that only had my name on it and then kind of receiving that validation and recognition, like, I mean, it really, really was just so awesome to see. Welcome to my presentation on evaluating defensive backs by their random player effects. So the question that I'm aiming to answer is, can defensive backs be evaluated on more than their ability to stop a pass from being complete? I created 2 types of models, one both being a target probability model and then one being a completion probability model. For example, the Chicago Bears. Eddie Jackson is targeted 11% more than the average defensive back. His completion probability effect shows that he causes a completion 27% less than the average defensive back. So here, a suggestion for a team would be to place Callahan against a top receiver and basically force a throw against Jackson. Callahan is unlikely to be targeted, and then you can throw against somebody who has a very, very low completion probability. I think there are a lot of ways that this can be used, and it's a really great framework kind of for that target probability. I also think that this can be used to evaluate the effect of shadowing and double coverage, as shadowing has been prevalent in the NFL the last couple of years. Thank you for coming.
We are now joined by Ella. Thank you so much. Who is actually joining us from Charlottesville at the University of Virginia. Colby, what do you want to ask Ella?
I really liked, I thought it was interesting that you took a using random effects model. Let's kind of get in your head a little bit and kind of see to what extent and how you arrived at kind of using that methodology. Like, what, was it the data telling you something? Was it just your experience in that domain? And so what the core key learnings were from that?
We were kind of trying to figure out how to really show the effect of a specific player. I was looking at one play where I think Patrick Pearson was on coverage and he ended up not being targeted. And I kind of used the term, like, I wonder if there's a Patrick Peterson effect where the quarterback doesn't want to throw to him. In asking that question, we kind of arrived to this random effects model. And I really tried to make sure that these effects would pull the complete effect of each player. So I made sure that in my models, I used more variables that the defensive backs couldn't really control.
And I think it's cool that you talked about, trying to find that Patrick Peterson effect. Did you do any thinking about, player effects on the other side of the ball? Like, is there an Odell Beckham effect?
Yeah, so that was also another thing that me and my mentor kind of talked about. I really wanted to first kind of lay down a more simple framework. And that's why I didn't really include anything on the offensive side, and then wanted to dive in deeper with that. So I think that I could use this model more on the offensive side and see if there's a quarterback effect and or receiver effect.
My general question is, you sort of talk about maybe reassigning Callahan and Jackson and having them guard different receivers. And I guess sort of my question is is there maybe what I would call a positivity issue, which is that, is Callahan maybe already being placed against these top receivers?
Yeah, that's definitely something that was kind of popping into my head as I was answering this question. So of course, it could be the case where the coaches are already doing this with certain combinations of players, but I'm hoping that maybe there are 2 or 3 different other combinations that they haven't really looked at or tried yet.
Ella, thank you so much. We really appreciate your investigation of the right player and the right things. Congratulations on finishing all of this. Congratulations on graduating. We wish you the best of luck, not just in this competition, but going forward. Thank you. Our next team is quite familiar with the Big Data Bowl, as 3 of the members won the college competition just 2 years ago in Indianapolis. Please welcome back Danny, Matt, Lucas, and Mayapin.
Hi, my name's Danny Chu. I'm 25 years old.
My name is Lucas Wu, and I'm 29. Unlike my teammates, I'm still in school pursuing my PhD degree in stats at Simon Fraser University.
My name is Mayapin Sabaya. I am 28. I work as a data scientist for Zealous Analytics.
I'm Matthew Ryers. I'm 25, and my day job is at Zealous Analytics, where we're working to build an exciting sports intelligence platform and doing it in all sorts of wonderful and exciting ways.
I got interested in statistics because of sports analytics. I was going to school to be a math teacher and a basketball coach. And when I found out that you can combine math with basketball, I said it would be crazy if I didn't try to do this as a career.
And I think for every competition, winning is not our objective at all. So we're always kind of enjoying this process, enjoying doing football research, enjoying applying what we know, our skills into football. That's something that, we always enjoy about, and then we are having fun.
So when we're coming back here as finalists again, it's unreal that we've had the opportunity to do this twice now, and even more exciting to have the chance to be able to push forward the field of sports analytics with our work and what we're able to carry out in our social work outside of this. Richard Sherman once said, "When it comes to playing cornerback, you're on an island out there." Regardless of what our eyes see, the data of this play tells a much milder story. Without knowing this was the tip, it would range from difficult to impossible to classify the many things Sherman did to eventually force this interception.
No longer in the dark are the things that happen off the ball or even before the pass is released.
And of course, not all matchups are created equal. Therefore, we make sure to account for quarterback and receiving skill in order to credit defenders playing against great offensive players.
With these tenets in mind, we see who leads the pack in each of our 4 metrics. 5 years after the tip, and Sherman is still a nuisance to throw at, albeit on the other side of the division. His appearance is no surprise. Although 2018 saw a lot of incredible defense, our models saw 3 standouts: Kyle Fuller, James Bradbury, and Stephon Gilmore.
It doesn't matter if you're hurt or tired, if you're playing against the league MVP or the fastest receiver. All that matters is, can you make a play? And for Richard Sherman, our models say yes.
We have some familiar faces for this one. Please help me welcome in Danny, Mayapin, Matt, and Lucas. Let's kick the questions off in Cleveland here. Nate, why don't you ask them the first question?
Yeah, well, first, thanks guys for your submission. It was great to read it. I guess my first question is just, can you say more about the dynamic time warping process? It seems like it's a key part of your submission, but I wasn't really able to follow how it worked.
So as we know, nearest defender assignment is a commonly used approximation for defender assignment. However, we know that nearest defender is not necessarily the assigned defender. And based on this idea, and then we use the dynamic time warping with the Fisher distance to kind of measure like the similarity of each defender's trajectory to all the potential receivers. And we're also combining like this with the nearest defender assignment to kind of get like a more robust defender assignment models.
When starting to think about the methodologies you guys used, how did you balance technical complexity with kind of simpler methodologies? Like what models did you explore, and how did you kind of arrive at the time warping versus other kind of maybe more simple or straightforward methodologies?
So with the target probability model, there's a lot of different complex situations that you look at and consider. And so Danny kind of hit on this earlier. It would have been really nice to look at the target probability model in terms of, all of the frames leading up to the pass. But given kind of the time frame we were in and the time crunch, we looked at just at the time of release. And one of the big things there was ideally we made an assumption to treat the model kind of as treat every receiver defender pair independently instead of as a multinomial. So there are some trade-offs that we took there. Later down the road, we did kind of try to normalize probabilities to handle the trade-offs that we did. But after the submission, we kind of continued to explore like different, more advanced target probability models. It's just that, the simpler one was the easiest one to go with given the time crunch.
Thank you so much for your submission. Thank you so much for your time, your effort, your model, and taking the time to explain it all to us all today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's now time for the judges to deliberate and decide the winner of this year's Big Data Bowl and recipient of $10,000. All right, so what do you guys think about Matthew and James' findings?
There's a reason why most people didn't really kind of use neural networks here, particularly when things go wrong. And so definitely hats off to them. A lot of hard work clearly went into this.
Not only that, their ability to execute was also top notch. And so it wasn't like they were just throwing a bunch of numbers on the page.
What did you guys think about Zach, Ryan, whose middle name is also Zach, and Sarah's presentation?
I think the team did a good job of both kind of approaching this from an analytical, how to kind of analyze what's going on during the game, but also try to take at least a step to try to understand, why this matters from a business perspective.
Okay, guys, let's break down what this team did with their Wade project.
They relied on a lot of previous research. I know they used Catherine's paper.
I think they did a good job. I think that there's a lot of explainability in there, but there's still a lot of these questions.
This is for who wins $10,000. So it's really important that we break down exactly what we liked about Jill's paper.
Oftentimes people ask, what are the important skills in sports analytics? And a really common answer is communication. And she has that in spades. Really, I was just absolutely charmed by this project.
If I were looking to hire someone right out of school, this is the type of logic and thoughtfulness that I'd want. What did you guys take away from Mark, Wei, Sam, and Jack?
I really like that they think about zone coverage. A lot of the other projects just limit themselves to man-to-man. It didn't totally derail them, which it might have done for me.
Okay, so what really stood out about Joe's presentation and his findings?
Yeah, I thought he did a great job with explainability. You got to be able to say what this guy's doing and not just say, here's some generic model outputs.
Ultimately, the ability to kind of really prove and defend, right, your findings is key.
Going back over Ella's presentation, Adam, what did you make of all of this?
Sure, yeah, I thought she had a really good approach and did a lot with the limited time she had, detailing how her process of approaching the problem evolved evolved over time as she realized limitations with some approaches and found better ways to approach it.
All right, we have some really great submissions, and that one was awesome as well. So why don't we have a little talk here about Danny, Mayapin, Matt, and Lucas's presentation. Nate, what do you think about all of this?
Yeah, I think this submission was excellent at measuring many different components of a play and then also tying those to points.
All right, judges, do we have a winner?
I believe we do.
So we wanted to get you all in one spot to formally announce that you four have been named the grand prize winner of the 2021 Big Data Bowl. So congratulations.
Thank you.
That's super amazing.
I was getting ready to practice my questions again. You guys tricked us in here.
The judges were, all agreed that realistically 8 finalists were all qualified. Our entrants this year were really impressive across the board. Just being named a finalist, I think, is really impressive. Ultimately, they all did agree. They were fairly consistent that your group did an outstanding job, both in the Kaggle write-up and in the presentation, and as well as answering the questions. It's well deserved. I think we're really thrilled for you guys, and are looking forward to your contributions to the football analytics community.
Thank you. I mean, there was a lot of really good work. So I think we're all pretty shocked.
I'm so excited to win this famous data competition just right before my graduation. And it really gives me a lot of confidence to keep working on the problems that I think are important.
Very excited to win. And thanks to you for organizing this, and to the NFL. It's been fun to work with you guys, and the whole process has just been great.
This is amazing. I don't know. I'm excited for Big Data Bowl 2022. We'll run it back.
Congrats to Mark, Sam, Wei, and Jack for winning the 2021 Big Data Bowl. Thrilled to have their submission, and thrilled to have all the submissions, and looking forward to 2022.
We want to thank and congratulate all of the finalists. You guys did some extraordinary work with the data you were given, making this year the best Big Data Bowl yet. We'll see you next year. Thank you so much for watching this year's Big Data Bowl, powered by AWS.